today's of News You Can Use. My name is Mya Henry. Today is Thursday, August 10th, and I'm so happy and excited to be here with you guys today, sharing the latest updates and insights that can truly make a difference in your life and in your business as well. So, for today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the most relevant news, the most relevant trends, the most relevant topics, and practical tips. That way, you guys can use them and stay ahead of the game if you apply them right away. So, without further ado, let's get started and get ready for an informative session that will empower you to have an edge as you are building your business. So, let's get straight into it. So, for today, one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about is how half of New York City households can't afford to live here. So, a report has studied that there is evidence to demonstrate the depth of New York City's affordability crisis, which just leads to reshaping local demographics and culture. So, New York City is staring down the worst affordability crisis of the last 2 decades. So, a full half of the households did not have enough money to comfortably hold down an apartment, access sufficient food and basic health care, and to get around. So the study is just one of the pieces of evidence that demonstrate how serious this crisis is and how it's actually reshaping local demographics and culture in real time. Public officials have been particularly alarmed by a significant drop in public school enrollment, which accelerated during the worst of the pandemic, and it's driven in part by Black families leaving the city over concerns about the cost of living. So Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul, they both have made tackling to the lack of affordability a priority, but it's still unclear whether they would be able to make meaningful changes, particularly around housing. The city is experiencing an acute shortage of affordable housing, an enormous problem that shows few signs of abating. So Hochul's push to build more housing across the state appears to have failed in recent state budget negotiations. Nearly 80% of households that did not bring in enough to meet the minimum cost of living in the city ended up contributing more than 30% of their income to housing. And that's just what the study had found. And at the same time, food prices have risen steadily amid stubborn inflation, and public transportation officials have warned of looming fare hikes. So, especially anybody who's in New York City, you know that the fares are soon going to be raised up to a higher price. So this report was released by the Fund of the City of New York, which just advises at government agencies and was established by the Ford Foundation back in 1968 and the United Way of New York City. The report authors use US data from 2021 along with a measure that calculates the baseline for the affordability for New York City families. The study also found that New Yorkers are even worse off after the nadir of the pandemic. So the groups from 2021 report found that just over a third of city households could not keep up with the cost of living at the time, a figure that has since then risen. The findings in the recent reports may particularly affect the challenges that low-income New Yorkers have faced when pandemic-era safety net programs like stimulus checks and child tax credit expired. The percentage of households struggling to afford basic needs in the city was higher than any other year in the report's 2-decade history of studying the cost of living. Households in all 5 boroughs needed to be pulling in at least $100,000 in order to afford housing, food, transportation, and to have a shot at being able to plan for the future. In southern Manhattan, which is home to some of the most expensive zip codes in the country, families with 2 adults and 2 children needed to make at least $150,000 combined. The actual median household income in the city was hovering around 70,000, and this is just according to recent census data. New York City has been unaffordable for a very long time, and its most vulnerable residents, including those without college degrees or people who are unable to work. But the report shows that a considerable majority of households that cannot keep up with the cost of living, which is 80%, had at least one working adult, and more than half of New Yorkers who cannot make ends meet had a college degree or some college credit, if not a graduate degree. So people are doing everything that they're told to do, and it just feels like they're representing a broken contract with people. Among working New Yorkers, home health aides were most likely to have incomes that could not cover the basics. And this is also according to the study. So health aides account for one of the fastest growing industries in New York City, but typically pull in very low salaries. The median wage for health aides was just over $15 an hour. And recent research has shown that the city is facing a massive shortage of home health aides, which will significantly worsen over the next few years. Janitors, cashiers, and teaching assistants were also likely to not be able to afford essentials. The affordability crisis is particularly urgent for non-white New Yorkers, right? So the study found that Latino, Black, and immigrant New Yorkers were bearing the brunt of the affordability crisis, and residents of the central Bronx had the highest rate of economic instability. And more than 85% of households where single mothers were taking care of young children were unable to keep up with the cost of living. So it isn't anything new that New Yorkers aren't able to afford where they live. And it's kind of sad because this is their home, and it's not nice, or it isn't comfortable that they can afford to live here. So it just goes to show that wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living. So a solution to this is that people need to make more money so that they can be able to afford to live in New York City or wherever your home is, and not only be able to afford to live there, but to actually be able to live there comfortably. People need to make more money, and it's obvious and it's pretty clear that wages are not cutting it. So for anybody who is interested in making more income, of course, reach out to me or reach out to my team, and we can get started on working together. So with that being said, I hope that today's segment was helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, share it, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next segment.